And there's nothing wrong with having low self-esteem. It makes sense. Everything in this entire world is teaching us to hate ourselves. Marketing is teaching us to hate ourselves. Policy is teaching us to hate ourselves. The workplace is teaching us to hate ourselves. Our families are teaching us to hate ourselves. Our friends are teaching us to hate ourselves. The songs we listen to is degrading to Black women specifically. Like, where in the world can Black women go where they're not being destroyed, where their self-esteem is not being attacked? Okay, so I was on Instagram the other day and I got tagged in a post from an author's home. Thank you. And she quoted me and she said that I said, "To pretend that our self-esteem is self-made is a lie. We become confident because we are around loving people who reflect to us the truth of who we are and our worth and our value. Our self-esteem is not made by self alone." So thank you again, an author's home, for reminding me that I said that. I don't remember where exactly I said that, but I know that I said that before, or I've thought it, I've written it down somewhere, because it's true. I really do believe that we get so caught up in self-esteem, self-love, all these different things, right? But we don't think about the fact that our self-love and self-esteem is curated by the people that we're around, right? Like, we are not in a vacuum. Like, we don't live in a separate container away from everybody else. And so when I see someone who may be struggling with low self-esteem in general, I see that as a societal failure. I see that as a communal failure. Like, the community of these people have failed them. When we get our self-esteem, like, yeah, I feel like when we're born, we have this idea that we are worthy, that we're lovely, that, we deserve attention. Babies cry, like, say, "Give me attention," right? But at some point we learn that we're not so valuable, or that we become valuable by doing more things or by being useful to other people, insert thing here, right? But a lot of our self-worth and the idea of how worthy we are and how lovable we are is shaped by our community. It's shaped by the people around us. It's shaped by our parents, our siblings, our best friends, our cousins, like our family members, right? Our community members. And so if we want people to have good self-esteem, then we have to start being good to them. Like, if we are constantly around people who treat us like trash, we're going to start believing that we're trash. We're going to start believing that we are unworthy of love, of respect, of kindness, or whatever the heck we're looking for. And I hate the way that we talk about self-esteem, because we think that self-esteem is like a requirement to be respected by other people, which is really weird. Almost like, if a person has low self-esteem, then they are less deserving and worthy of my love and affection and my respect, right? Which really just shows me that people are looking for a reason to disrespect people. They're not really looking for people to have high self-esteem, because you can't shame people into thinking highly about themselves. When has that worked for you, right? Like, in a lot of ways, when we are shamed, we put on the look of something. It's like the mask of something. It's fake. We put on this look, or this thing that we would have other people believe that our self-esteem is high. We might look the part, we might sound the part, we might have all the things, right? That people say, like, "Oh, that person thinks well of themselves," right? But whole time, in the back of our head, only we know that we're struggling with low self-esteem. Only we know that we're buying this stuff or wearing this stuff or showing up this way to impress somebody else, because we still don't feel like we're worthy. We still don't feel like we're worth enough. We still don't feel like we're worth enough to rest in our enoughness. Like, self-esteem is a community game. There is no self-esteem without community, because how do you even know to use the term self-esteem? Let's start there. Let's think about that. Who told you that you should have high self-esteem? Somebody else. Who gave you permission to then exhibit that high self-esteem by having standards, by putting boundaries in place? Other people stepping into their brilliance, but also other people directly encouraging us, gives us permission to think highly of ourselves. We all have some sort of metric for how we measure people's worth and value, and we use it on ourselves. And I'm not saying that every way that we measure that is good. It's not. It actually does a lot of damage. But if somebody has low self-esteem, I am convinced that somebody in their life convinced them that they are unworthy. This is a communal failure. And again, someone having low self-esteem is not a sin. It's not. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand when people are like, "Oh, well, she has low self-esteem, so she let that happen to her," or like anybody lets anything happen to them, right? Or yeah, if you had high self-esteem, this wouldn't happen to you. That's not true. Like, people. Okay, I have a lot of things that I want to say, and I'm trying to say them in the best way that I can say them. But people have a lot of hangups around self-esteem, and self-esteem devolves into something else to judge somebody by. That if you don't look like, in my mind, if you don't look like a person who has high self-esteem, then you're not deserving of my respect. When people who have the low self-esteem need more love and respect. Right? And so then people are saying that if a person doesn't have high self-esteem, then somehow they're below you. That if someone thinks lowly of themselves, then your disrespect of them makes sense. It's warranted. It's warranted. And then also other people believe that if you have high self-esteem, then you will be saved from from someone hurting you. I'm here to let you know right now, that's not true. Like, having high self-esteem can protect you from a lot of the ills that might find someone who has lower self-esteem, but it's not about the ills finding them. It's about what you accept, what you learn to accept, right? For a lot of people who have high self-esteem, that makes you a target. That makes you a target for other people to make you feel smaller so that they feel bigger, right? So to say that high self-esteem somehow protects you from people coming after you is not true. It's false. If anything, it kind of brings people to you to try to break you down. But because you have high self-esteem, i.e., because your mama, daddy, community member, some random woman on YouTube, a book, a podcast, something, an affirmation, something reflected back to you that actually I deserve better. Actually, you know what? I am that girl, right? Like, we all have someone that activates that esteem in us. Self-esteem is not self-made, is my point. Like, self-esteem is made by your community members. And yes, yourself, but our beliefs are also built off of other people's beliefs. You know, until we can interrogate it, right? And a lot of people are living off of the affirmations and the esteem of other people, the esteem that people give us. And a lot of people who don't have high self-esteem, like, this is not, when someone in our community has low self-esteem, the reaction should not be to leave them behind. Oh, here she goes. She got low self-esteem. No, it is our duty, because we are high self-esteemed people, right? Like, we feel highly about ourselves, or higher than that person feels about themselves. It is our duty to take care of them. It is our duty to remind them, to be that mirror, to reflect to them the true reflection, their true beauty, their true inherent value and worth. Like, that is our job. If people feel low about themselves, that's our fault. That's our fault. And I know we're so hyper individualistic that people are going to push back and be like, no, that's them. That's their work to do. I'm here to tell you that we don't get free alone. Nobody gets free by themselves. No one. Everybody is saved because somebody else reached back and saved you. And if you think that you're self-made, think about it. Who taught you how to spell? Who taught you how to count? Right? The foundations of what we need to move through this world. Who taught you how to read? Right? A teacher somewhere who's probably underpaid, or your mom or your parent, and they didn't get paid for that either, right? Like, no, you feel confident because you can go into a classroom and know how to read and know how to comprehend and digest information, and everybody don't have that. But because community made you confident, you can walk into a classroom with full confidence because somebody gave you that confidence. Somebody gave you the thumbs up and said, you're doing great. You're doing a wonderful job. We all need that all the time. This lying that we do, and it is lying, that like, oh, I don't do nothing for nobody else. We're communal people. We do a lot of things for other people. And I'm not saying that the root of everything you do has to be for other people or to benefit other people, right? But I'm saying to pretend that we are on an island alone somewhere, getting our self-esteem from only ourselves is ridiculous. Again, even if because there are affirmations that I give to myself, like, say I'm doing something, I'm not doing a great job. And it's my first time doing it, right? My encouragement to myself is like, girl, you ain't never did this before. You know what I mean? Like, this is the first time you're doing this. But I'm also fighting against the negative words that people have said to me over the years because I'm not good at something the first time I do it. The fear that we're taught to, like, we're afraid of being seen trying. We're afraid of being seen making mistakes or saying the wrong word, or why is it so embarrassing to make a tweet and misspell the word, or whatever the heck people are doing, blue skying. I don't know. Like, why is that? Because we fear how people are going to respond to us. We do a lot of stuff for the approval of other people. And I don't think that's inherently wrong. I don't think that we're necessarily looking for approval, but we're looking for love. We're looking for belonging. We're looking for community. And our community's job is to reflect back to us like, yeah, this is your first time doing that. You're not going to be good at something probably the first time. It's very rare to be good at something the first time you do it. Somebody has to reflect to us truth when we get caught up in our heads. Yeah. So this idea of like self-esteem being self-made is only partly true, right? Like it's the foundation is created by somebody else who gives us permission to love ourselves. Because I've been on the other side, right? Where people have been affirming me, but whole time it's wrapping me in bondage. It's saying, oh, you're such a good worker. You're such a good helper. You're like, as if my value comes from me helping people, right? And so I spent an eternity trying to be enough for people because my community reflected to me that I am worthy. But add a little extra on that. You're worthy as long as you're useful. You're worthy as long as I approve of you. You're worthy as long as you're helpful. Whatever thing, right? When whole time, no, like my community was supposed to reflect back to me. I am worthy because I am. And our community, we are made up of our communities. Like whatever that community is, it could be your parents, your siblings, but it could also be your friends, right? Like we pick up things that our friends say. We pick up the way that they think, which is why who you hang around with is important. It is important. I don't necessarily believe that, like, you know, when people say like you become the total of the however many people around you. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that we just say things like to get across an idea. Yes, we are heavily influenced by the people we hang out with. Absolutely. But like that stops at a certain point. And so my thing is like we are made up of our community. We're made up of their beliefs. Like even if we don't necessarily all the way agree with our friends, we leave room for it, right? Like we leave room because we leave room for them. Like we love them. And if we understand that our friends make us feel loved, that we make our friends feel loved, that your mom saying that she's proud of you makes you cry. Like if we're going to talk about that, then we have to talk about how we fail others by not affirming them. We can be so selfish in a negative way. Like I'm for Black women specifically getting free and self-loving and all that other stuff, right? But also get with other Black women. Get with other women who get it. You feel me? Like get with other people who love you. Love you, not what you do and not what you do for them. Sorry, the sirens, but like who love you for who you are. You know what I mean? When you're feeling low, sometimes affirmations don't work because you say them and you don't believe them because you're telling yourself, oh, I'm beautiful, but you feel ugly, or somebody told you that you're ugly, or your spouse is making you feel ugly, or like whatever is happening. You've been told you've been ugly your entire life and you say this affirmation in the mirror and you don't believe yourself because somebody told you that you're not a worthy person to listen to. Like community impacts us way more than we're willing to admit. We think that we look strong, brave, I don't know, grown up by saying things don't affect us. I don't care. I'm unbothered. We are so bothered. We are so bothered, which is why people are so desperate for affirmation, desperate for belonging, desperate for worth. But that's why people feel so like pointless at their jobs. They feel like their jobs are pointless because they know they're made for something more than this. Like insert thing here. I'm not saying that every job is pointless. I'm just saying for people who don't like their jobs or the course of the way that their life is going, right? Like because I know that they're meant for something more. And sometimes all you're missing is a community member activating that in you with what you already know to be true. Stuttering. But like you need someone to reflect back to you the reminder of that truth, right? Which is why community is so important. We don't get free alone. We get free together. And the question is, instead of like how can I be a better reflection to my community members? How can I tell a mom in my group that she's doing a great job and I see her? Because you don't know what people are battling in their minds, right? Like we're so focused on self. But yes, how are we being beneficial to the communities that we belong to? You know what I mean? Sometimes someone hearing you're doing great will make their day. Because you don't know that they've been beating themselves up all day saying they trash, nothing they do matters, nobody cares, blah, blah, blah. You just saying that you care about somebody builds their self-esteem. And we wonder why we got a world full of people who hate themselves. It's our fault. Our as in community, not like our individual fault, but the community has failed them. Your community is supposed to love you and affirm you and let you know that you're enough. Why do we have people who are greedy? I don't even want to get into politics and stuff like that. But why do we have that? There's this deep, dark hole, this need to feel important because they weren't told anyway, or they were told. Anyway, I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself. But I have thoughts, but I just think that we fool ourselves and we lie when we say that self-love is self-made and self-contained. When these boxes that we pretend that we live in, this like disjointed living is not real. It's something that, again, colonizers made us believe to disconnect ourselves from ourselves and disconnect each other from one another. disconnect one another from each other. Like, we need each other. We need community. We know how it feels. Even as I'm exploring my spirituality, the feeling of going to church and being around people who get it and who affirm you, and people who dance with you, like when you're dancing and crying, and cry with you and pray with you, like, that is affirming. That reflects back to someone that they are worthy, that they're deserving of your prayers and your effort and your dancing and your crying, right? Like, I think there are some scriptures in the Bible that are beautiful, like, mourn with those who are mourning. Celebrate with those who are celebrating, right? Like, because that reflects to them, like, no, I can't fix your pain, I can't heal it, but I see you and you're worthy. You're worthy of my time. You're worthy of my investment. You're worthy of my support, of my affirmation. You're worthy of being a community member. And I feel like where we're turning to is that it gets really toxic and nasty and dangerous for me when we say stuff to people like, oh, if you don't have self-esteem, you can't hang around me because, oh, you're just going to be jealous of me. You're going to take what you want. Maybe, but maybe not, right? Like, as a person who struggles with low self-esteem, I might feel envy, but my inclination is not to destroy someone else's stuff. It's to destroy myself. It's to say, Alicia, you suck. Alicia, you not good. Look at what they doing. Look at what you doing, girl. You behind. Don't nobody love you. Look at how many people love them, right? Like, it's not about the destruction of somebody else. Everybody ain't after you. We got to stop with this paranoia. Everybody is not after you. Sometimes your friends just need you to affirm them. Sometimes it's not about you. Yikes. Sometimes it's not. Like, and I'm like, we have to find that balance between self and community. Like, yes, take care of yourself first and foremost, because yes, like, as shout out to Erica De Niro TV and everybody else that I follow. Black women, take care of yourself first. We are so used to taking care of everybody else. I get that. Once you have yourself together, what can you give from your overflow? Now that you have poured into yourself, what can you give to somebody else that they might be needing from you? I think sometimes I have good self-esteem about myself because I know that I am impactful in my community. And it's not necessarily coming from a bad place. It's like, I am so happy that I get to exist in the same time and space as this person. And I get to be the messenger of hope. I get to be the messenger of joy. I get to affirm them and tell them what you're doing is an amazing thing. Keep going. I know it's hard. And I know it's hard for my own experiences, right? Like, that feels good to me. That makes me feel useful. And not that that's the reason why I do it, but it is a good feeling. You know what I mean? Like, on top of the joy that somebody else experiences because of something that I can do, like whisper a word, put words together that come from my heart that encourages somebody, is a big deal. And seeing someone's response to that reminds me, oh, Alicia, you are here for a good reason. Like, you are needed here. Like, you're not a waste of space. You're not a burden. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people love you. People love you, you know, and you love people. Yeah, but let's stop throwing people away just because they have low self-esteem. I think that's the easiest and the laziest thing that we can do. Throw people away because they are somehow, they didn't escape capitalism, colonialism, anti-blackness, homophobia, all the other things, right? Like, misogynoir, unscathed. Of course they have low self-esteem, honey. Of course. That's the design. On some level, we all do, until we have to claw our way out of it. And a lot of us didn't just claw. Somebody reached in a hand and helped us out. Somebody gave us the tools to get us out. Somebody gave us a new way of thinking to get us out. Somebody saved us. So pay it forward. Pay it forward. How can you affirm somebody else today? Writing a card to somebody or a note, calling somebody. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Are you good? Somebody that you know has low self-esteem. What compliment can you give them? It's not going to change the world for them. It's not, but it can. You never know, right? Like, what are we doing as a community to fix the low self-esteem problem we're having in our community, whatever that community is? If I'm around my friends and my friends think they ain't nothing, I failed them somehow. I failed to reflect back to them somehow, and I'm not saying that when you reflect it back, people are just going to accept it and take it, right? It takes time, just like it took you time. Give people grace that you got. Stop. Like, we can become so judgmental and so pious and so like, oh, I am the self-love queen. Like, we forgot that 3 years ago, we weren't in the bathroom crying because our makeup ain't come out correct. And I'm speaking from personal experience. You know what I mean? Or we forget that, like, before we put out that art or before we applied for that job, somebody had to give us a pep talk to do it. Somebody had to hold our hands while we press send or upload. Stop pretending you got where you are by yourself. That is not true. If you would pause for a second and look around, there is an entire community woven together just so that you could be successful and so that you can love yourself. Where did you learn self-love from? For a lot of people, for me specifically, it wasn't like, oh, someone sat me down and said, oh, this is how you love yourself, right? No, it was witnessing people love themselves. It was them being in community with me and me watching and me like, oh, I didn't know I could take that time. I think about my granny, my great grandmother. I did a podcast recently about her and how she taught me how to rest, like how all my elders taught me to rest, but I was specifically focusing on her. And she would get up early in the morning before everybody else and take her time with herself. That is her showing me how to love yourself. You carve out time for yourself. Before everybody else is picking on you and asking you for things, you pour into yourself first. That's what my granny taught me. But she never sat me down and say, oh, this is how you love yourself. You know what I mean? It was just community. You learn stuff. It doesn't have to be a lecture. You learn stuff from your community by witnessing, by being a witness, by being a part of, by someone showing you, here, take your hand and do this, place it here as a child. Like, how do we learn how to write? Tracing. Somebody had to trace before us, right? I'm writing out chair, right? Somebody had to do the lines for C and H and A and I and R before I could even recognize what that was, or before I could even do it by myself. Somebody did it before me and showed me the pathway. And that's how we build our self-esteem. Somebody leads the path. Somebody is the runway. And so you can take off by yourself. And there's nothing wrong with having low self-esteem. It makes sense. Everything in this entire world is teaching us to hate ourselves. Marketing is teaching us to hate ourselves. Policy is teaching us to hate ourselves. The workplace is teaching us to hate ourselves. Our families are teaching us to hate ourselves. Our friends are teaching us to hate ourselves. The songs we listen to is degrading to Black women specifically. Like, where in the world can Black women go where they're not being destroyed, where their self-esteem is not being attacked? It should be with other Black women. It should be with their community, but sometimes we also do the harm, especially by shaming people for having low self-esteem when we should be reflecting on ourselves. What can I do better? We get free together, never alone. It has never been like that. Look at history. Go read a book. Ain't nobody ever got free by themselves. I promise. Like, even as I'm reading about Harriet Tubman, right? And I'm thinking about I'm thinking about like how when I was younger, I just thought Harriet Tubman like had this revelation from God, and she did, right? And two things at the same time, right? Multiple truths are true at the same time. It's nuanced, right? But also she had community. She came from people who affirmed. She came from people who saw, like, and her history, her community lit that fire to fight for freedom, right? She didn't get there. She didn't get to that place by herself. She was inspired by her community, by how her community was being treated, right? By the fact that her mom, technically, according to the paper, according to the will of her previous slave owner, or her previous owner, her previous, let me not even say owner, her previous captor, the person who was trafficking her, and her family, like, this person was supposed to free her mom, I think when she was like 45 or like 35 or something like that. And when that age came, right, because also enslaved people sometimes didn't know their own birthday. So that's a whole other conversation. But like, she saw her mother being mistreated. And something in her knew that that wasn't right. That I deserve more. That my mother deserves more. Even her mother knew that it was wrong. She wept, she wailed, she mourned. Somebody had to tell them at some point that you're worthy of freedom. There's something in, whether that was from generations ago, like ancestrally, like there is, even within Black folks, like there is this like stubbornness and pride that we have that I think is so beautiful, because you're not finna talk to me crazy. Like there's something in us, like our anger, our righteous anger knows when we're being mistreated and doesn't like it. So even if we have low self-esteem, there's still something in us that is like, this is mistreatment and I won't stand for it. You know what I mean? And so with Harriet Tubman and her family, like, she had the audacity to be like, you know what? No, I'm worthy of more, and went out for more, and then came back and reminded other people that they were worthy of more too. So she got free, and not by herself. Not by herself, but with an entire community of people working together for the freedom of enslaved people, right? Not by herself, but with God. You know what I mean? With spirit, following her, giving her downloads, giving like things that one could not explain. Miracles happening. Harriet Tubman did not get free by herself. She was surrounded by community, whether it's spiritual or like literal people. I mean, it's all spiritual to me, but like, you know what I mean? No one gets free by themselves. And when you get free, it is your duty to turn around and go get them too. That's how I feel. So all this shaming people for having low self-esteem and making decisions that somebody would make that has low self-esteem, and we act surprised and like, why would she do that? Because her community failed her. That's why. Somebody did not reflect back to this person, this beautiful human being, woman, man, person, child, doesn't matter. Like, there's something that is in us that is ignited by community. That's the key that we're missing. We think that we can find it in a book or in affirmations or meditation or writing ourselves love letters. And that's all true too, right? But also a big part of that, a big part of us building our self-esteem is our community. But yeah, like if you have low self-esteem, it's not your fault. We all do on some level. We all are insecure about something. And like, understand that if you have low self-esteem, that's how these systems want you to feel. Like, that means the system is working how it's supposed to work, right? It's not a failure on your part. It's a failure of the system. It's a failure of the world that we live in. It's a failure of your community. So it's not just your immediate community, right? But it's also the community that we are living in. The people we are affected by, the people that are governing our bodies. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's all of it. The reason why we have low self-esteem, everybody comes into this world knowing that they are enough, knowing they're important, they're worthy of love, attention, care. Babies demand it. They don't ask, they demand. But somewhere along the line, someone in our community, or a belief that we pass down in our community, right? That belief gets rooted and embedded in our heart, and we start to believe that we are unworthy. No one believes they're unworthy without somebody telling them that. So someone having low self-esteem is never their fault in my mind. Like, why would it ever be their fault that they hate themselves? That's crazy. That don't make no sense. Why would I be shaming someone for hating themselves, right? My mission is to be like, no, you're actually lovely. Actually, you're beautiful. Actually, you are enough. And let me show you how. And this also comes from being in community. Being a good community member means being concerned with the people in your community, right? So like, if I'm with my best friend and my best friend says, I can't do because X, Y, and Z, it's my duty to turn to my best friend and be like, hey, Bessie, actually, you've done X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, right? Roman numeral, 1, 2, 3. Like, you've done all these things, and this is my experience of you, and I'm here to reflect to you that, yeah, you're a little close to it. I'm further away, right? I can see you as a whole person. You can only see as a human being. Even though I'm in my body and I see myself on camera right now, I can't see all of my body. You know what I mean? Like, I can only see to here, right? And then even here on my face, I can't see my face. I see my nose. I see like my cheeks a little bit. But for the most part, I can't see anything, right? Like, but my friend can see me. My friend can see those blind spots that I have. My friend knows how I walk, the gait with what I walk with. Like, they can see me walking down the street and be like, oh, that's Alicia. I can't do that because I've never seen myself walk that far before. You feel me? Like, people in your community have different perspectives of you. It's like technically we're all like in a circle together, but just think like you're in the middle of a circle and your community is standing all around you, right? And they can see all the different perspectives of you, things that you can't. I've never seen the back of my head with my eyes, but some of my friends have. And so our community is there to reflect to us the things that we cannot see or we may be blinded to in that moment. So maybe in that moment, my bestie is like, I think I'm trash. It's my job to be like, actually, I see the back of your head. And you're not trash. You're amazing. I've seen the wonderful things that you've done. Have you forgotten about this? What about that? You're also really good at this. Have you considered that? And it could be stuff that my best friend might not know that he's capable of. You know what I mean? Like, that's the beauty of community. And we are not going to shame women specifically and shame people, into loving themselves. That's like shame does not equal love, right? Like, we have to make room for people to be honest about the fact that I'm scared. I don't like myself. I do think I'm ugly. Like, I don't feel successful. I don't feel qualified. I feel like a failure. I feel like I have something to prove. There are a lot of people who are high achieving, who are only high achievers because they're trying to prove somebody wrong about what they said to them. You know what I mean? Like, We are all deeply insecure. And the more honest we become, that's when we start to heal. Not this fake putting a Band-Aid over a stab wound. You know what I mean? Looking the part, looking good, and all the while feeling like trash. You deserve to have a whole life where you're able to be honest and be like, you know what? Today I do kind of hate myself. And go to my community and share that with them with the hopes that it'll be taken seriously, yes, but also kept safe. You know what I mean? And I'll be kept safe. And they will sit me down and they will sit around me in a circle and tell me all the things that they love about me and remind me of all the things that I forgot or I can't see. That's the community's job. Never shame. Shame gets us nowhere. Shame is the reason why they hate themselves in the first place. You're just going to pile on more shame and think that's going to help? That'll make no sense. Anyway. Be kind, be kinder. Can we be more kind? More thoughtful, more generous before we speak? Can we think about our words? Can we think about what our words are saying and what they're reflecting to our community members? Because when we say things like, oh, that could never be me because I have high self-esteem. So, okay. Again, like I said, debunking the myth that high self-esteem saves you from anything. I think when we say things like that, we can do harm unintentionally because someone will hear us say that and be like, oh, well, I don't have high self-esteem, so I guess it could be me. I guess I'm worthy of that. I'm worthy of that mistreatment because I have low self-esteem. No, you're not. You're not worthy of that. I don't care if you think you the bee's knees. I don't care if you think that you're the scum between people's toes. You do not deserve disrespect. Period. I don't care how you think about yourself. Why are we putting the responsibility on how people are treated on them? I can tell you why. Because we think having high self-esteem is going to save us from harm. And I'm here to reflect back to you, that's not always the case. It's not. So instead of I also think it's easier to deal with the person who's dealing with the low self-esteem than it is with the person causing harm, right? And yeah, that's another conversation for another day. This has already gone on long enough. But yeah, just be kind, be thoughtful, be generous, and understand that if people in your community are not well, it is our duty and our job as community members, right? To make sure that our people are well, because otherwise, what's the point of being in community with them? And I'm talking true community. What's the point? If your friend can't come to you and say, I feel like trash, and you be like, girl, let's go out first of all, let's get dressed up or whatever they want to do. Let's go out to brunch. I'm about to put you on, because you are that girl. You know what I mean? If you don't have friends like that, what is the point? If you can't be honest about your pain, if you're shamed for being human and escaping an awful existence unscathed, is that really a community? Anyway, these are just my thoughts, but I will talk to you in the next one. Please be kind to each other. Be kind to yourself. And if you're struggling with low self-esteem like me, I get it. It makes sense. Again, over and over and over again, all day long, we're shamed for being somewhere that we're not supposed to be, for not making this amount of money, for not having this job, for looking a certain way, dressing a certain way, not wearing a certain brand, not just dumb stuff that has nothing to do with your worth or your value anyway. You came into this world naked, screaming, crying, covered in your mom's love, worthy of love and joy and respect. And if a baby deserves love and joy and respect, why don't you? A baby literally cannot do anything for anybody except make them smile or cry. Depending on what your baby is doing. Babies, and I don't mean this in a way. I don't mean this in a way, but babies are useless low key when it comes to labor and help and whatever. Actually, they create more work, right? They create more labor. Literal, more labor, right? But we love babies and we take care of babies and we think, don't be talking to that baby like that, right? We have so much more dignity for babies, in the best case scenario, mind you, than we do ourselves. And that's a problem. And we'll talk more about that later. But at this point, my thoughts are complete and I will talk to you in the next video. All right, bye.